A little bit more about some MMA stuff. You know, you mentioned that Brock Lesnar was a former UFC champion. We know Dave Bautista tried some MMA, Bobby Lashley, and now CM Punk. They're all trying their hand at MMA. And over the years, of course, there have been stories that you got very close to signing with the UFC. If the UFC was where they are now, all the way back in 1997, do you think you may have chosen MMA as a career path instead of professional wrestling?
Well, I'll say this. Unfortunately, because how much I love pro wrestling, I don't think I would have gone into pro wrestling. I think I would have done UFC. I think I would have done MMA. It was more up my alley, being an Olympic gold medalist and starting to train in MMA before I started in pro wrestling. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I think the rule changes were even better. Unfortunately, the UFC didn't start becoming popular until after I signed with WWE and I started having a lot of success. I did have a stint with Dana where I met with him twice. Once was right after I left WWE. Unfortunately, I couldn't. I left WWE and took some time off, and when I had the meeting, when I flew out to meet with Dana White, he wanted me to quit pro wrestling entirely, and I just signed the deal with TNA, and I felt an obligation to fulfill it, at least for a year or two, even though it was a 5-year deal. But I couldn't just quit and I told Dana, I just signed with these guys last week. I can't just go back and tell them not to wrestle.
Right.
And he said, well, I cannot have you wrestle. He said, listen, think about it. If you decide not to, come back to me at a later date. We'll work something out. So Dana was cool. He was great. I didn't have any problems with Dana. He was all for it, and I was too. But unfortunately, we couldn't come to that deal at that time. Then in 2010, we had the situation with my ex and Jeff Jarrett and all that crap that was going on, and I was looking for a way out of pro wrestling, and I called Dana and met with him again. And this time he wanted me to be on Real Fighter with Kimbo Slice. He didn't want me to fight Kimbo at a pay-per-view. He wanted me on the show with Kimbo. I was okay with that, but he was going to start the show in 4 weeks. And I told him, I can't be ready in 4 weeks to go on that show and have any impact. I need at least 3 to 6 months. And he said, well, we're starting. I'd really like you on the show. Why don't you come out here and take a physical? I went out and took the physical, and then I came back, and we just decided that wasn't enough time for me to get ready. And also, I said, Dana, I'm not going to go on that show for free. I know there's guys go on the show for free for a contract. He said, no, we'll give you this amount of money to be on a show, and I'll give you a 6-fight deal regardless of what happens. Dana was great to me. I don't have any problem with Dana, but I just could not come to the grips of being ready in 4 weeks. I didn't want to go in there unprepared and embarrass myself because, we all know these guys are world-class fighters, and I wanted to be ready.
Yeah, well, Kurt, I've been with you when we were at TNA together when you've talked to Dana on the phone, and then I remember I called you last year. I met Dana for the first time in person in Atlanta, and he thinks the world of you. As all those MMA guys, actually, they all stayed at a hotel that I was staying at visiting my girlfriend in Atlanta, and right. You're legendary with those guys. They look up to you as if you were actually a champion, a current champion, or a former champion. That's how much respect you have from these guys with your amateur wrestling skills. So, and Dana thinks the world of you. The first thing I said to him, I said, I know Kurt Angle. He said, God, I love Kurt. Wish we could have got him. But it's got to be great for you to know you have that much respect. I've just got to throw his name in there because my friend Conrad has had the misfortune, good fortune and misfortune of hanging around TJ Jaworski.
Oh, God.
And I always tell everybody that you always tell me that pound for pound, TJ, here's another guy that should have gone to the UFC, right?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, he would have done some real damage. Yeah, TJ Jaworski.
He is so damn tough, it's ridiculous. And I always tell everybody, you told me
he's one of those guys that, at his size, he could possibly kick my ass. That's what's scary about him. It doesn't matter what weight class he'd be in. That's how tough the kid is.
Yeah, the thing about him, he knows no fear. You know, I take him deep sea fishing, right? And he puts on his scuba gear and goes 120 feet. I mean, who does that? You know, he just jumps off the side of the boat and goes on and shoots a lobster off a shelf, right? 120 feet. He fears nothing. You know, you get in a storm, what are you worried about? Have another beer, right? Okay. By the way, we're taking on water. We're 70 miles out. Just shut up, Rick. I got everything handled. Okay, Coach.
Well, he wasn't a 3-time national champion for nothing.
Yeah, God, I know. Yeah. Holy cow. Well, he's doing, I don't know if I've told you, he's got that rock quarry business in Southern California, and he is kicking ass, boy.
Good for him.
Yeah, his stepfather has turned it over to him, and he's making big jack. He deserves it. As a matter of fact, it's the largest quarry in California now. So,
Good
he's doing real well. He loves you, man. He thinks you're the
I love him
coming.
too.